Hello everyone, this is part 2 of week 4's video. And in the part 2 of the video, we're going to focus on chapter 6. It is about filtering using the where keywords in select statement. We have briefly covered the where keywords a couple weeks ago. Now we're going to go in more detail. There are actually different ways to filtering, and based on what we learned just a moment ago using expressions, we can combine expressions with a few different kind of methodology to filtering. The first one is very simple. You can have larger, larger equal, less, less equal, equal or not equal to compare with characters, numerical or date values with some constant or expressions. We can also use between x and y to choose a range that fall into x, y. In any particular case of between x and y are included in the selection. In is another one. Basically, is establish a special membership, x, y, z, etc. Whenever the condition is in those membership, then is become part of the selection. Also, like is specifically used to choose from a particular character pattern using regular expression type of conditions. And the last one is actually the null values. We know null is very special. You cannot, any operation that we do with null is becoming null value. So to choose any of the field that is null, there's a special way. It is the is null statement to try to filter null values. And here I'm going to show you in the following example of using each different kind of methodology, and you can actually learn it very quickly through the examples. Okay, let's still use the sales order example database, and let's see what are those tables. We have this customer category table. Let's look at it. What is in the customer table? Here the select star from customer basically is return everything from the customer's table, and it is usually not recommended when your table is large, but in this case the table is fairly small, so we can see there are a few different kind of customers in this table. Let's look at it, the customer ID. Let's see what are those customer IDs comes from. It's actually from 1001 to 1028. It is a numerical value, as we just saw a moment ago. So we can actually filter out customers by customer ID. Let's say the customer ID is larger than 1025, and I want to return the customer's first name and the customer's last name from the customer table. What I can do is add a where keywords into the statement. So please remember, you can select a few columns but use different columns in the where statement here. And of course, all of them will be part of the customer's data. So the customer has fields for first name, last name, and customer ID. You can select first name and last name, and using customer ID as the filter. Let's do this. Now you can see that actually there are 4 customers with the customer ID larger or equal to 1025, and those are their names. And if you want the customer's name specifically for customer ID 1025, we can do that. That's exactly equal to. it is this name, Maria Peterson. And also we can choose less than a particular number and return the customer's name. Or we can also use between. Use between basically is going to include 1020 and 1023 as well any number in between. So those are the customer's name that satisfy this condition. So basically that condition is whenever the customer's ID less than 1005, that particular record, if it's true, then it will be included. And if it is true, it's going to be included in the outcome. We can also use the in. In is basically a special membership. In this one, we create a particular 3 members. And in this one, there are sometimes you can use larger than and less than, sometimes between and to have 2 limits. But sometimes you want us to, in a relatively random fashion in this particular way. We want the customer number 1007, 1014, and 1027. In this one, we can use the in keywords to choose. Those are the 3 names that customer's ID are actually all in this membership. And also, let's look at the customer. There's a customer state as well. So in can be used for characters as well. Yeah, those are the customers that actually their customer state is either Washington or Oregon. Okay, so the next one is specifically reserved for characters is using the like. The like basically is going to match a particular pattern of the a character. You can use wildcards in the expression. For example, percentage represents 0 or more characters of any kind. So in this one, in this way, basically we're going to return any of those customers' last name actually has SON as part of their last name. It can be start with SON or end SON or appear anywhere in the last name to be SON. Let's see what we're going to return. Now, Thompson SON, Peterson SON, and for our example, actually everything is at the end of the SON pattern, but if we have more customers' last name, the SON may appear in the middle or appear at the front. And also we can use underscore. Underscore represents 1 character of any kind. So using underscore can determine the total length of the character. Like for example, I put in 3 underscores, then n. So basically it's going to return anything that actually has a character with length 4 and the last character is n. And let's see how many we're going to return. This time I actually using the customer's first name. Let's see what kind of customer we're going to return. We have this Dean and John. Basically the first name 4 letters and the last one is n. And there are a lot of more explanations at page 175 to 176. You can go to the textbook for more detail for the like, different kind of examples we're using like. For characters, we can use between as well. In this particular one, we're looking for the last name between B and BZ. So by doing that, you eventually is kind of like equivalently to say that you choose any customers their last name start with B. And let's see what's there. And we have Brown and Bonickerson. So in this particular one, we define B. So B, if there are any letter below, it will be in between those. So it include any potential name start with B. And we can use not. So not is a particular interesting thing that we're going to cover later, but basically it's whenever we use not, we're going to kind of like the opposite of whatever condition you just mentioned. So it's going to give us nearly all the names except anything that starts with B. So there's no B here. Um, Another one is whether it's null or not. As we know, null is a special meanings, more or less missing and unknown. And sometimes we want to see some of the record that a particular field is null. Let's look at that. That particular one, okay, we return, um, we return is null in that the Windows web page is actually null in this case. So all those fields, every field for the record, their web page is null. And eventually we can also do it's not null, basically is the opposite. So return anything that is actually not null for that particular field. That's a Windows web page field. It's right here. So this one we return they do have a Windows web page. It's not null. Okay. What we just learned about is all about one particular condition, whether it's between or in or like or is null. And oftentimes we need to connect different conditions to return one condition, a combined final condition for our choice. And what we usually do is we're going to use and or to combine different conditions. Um, so for each condition, it can be either true or false. Sometimes we use 1 for true and 0 for false. We can combine conditions together, and if the final condition is true, then this row uh, will be included in the result. And if the final condition is false or 0, then it will not be included in the results. When we are working with complex conditions, always use parentheses for clear illustration. And first, let's check basically. Uh, let's finish this. I'm not sure what happened here. Okay, first let's basically to combine two conditions to see what will happen. Let's say if we select true and false, basically 1 and 0, what will happen? It's actually is going to return 0. You see, true and false is actually 0, and true and true is going to be true, and false and false is going to be false, 0. And true or false is going to return true. True or true is going to return true. And false or false is going to return false, 0. So those are the rules when you have true and false and how you're going to combine them together. There's only 6 different ways for those combinations. And based on these 6 different combinations, we can have more complicated situations. And so this is one example. Again, in the customer table, let's do this. Let's try to find the customer's first name and last name where those conditions is kind of like a two piece of condition. The first is the customer's last name is between B and K, and the second condition is customer last name is between P and S, and it's using OR. So by doing that, basically you're going to return any rows that the customer's last name is either between B and K or between P and S. So that's what all means. Then you return the customer with last name between B and K as well as P and S. This is another example. Let's do this. This one we can have the customer's last name between B and E and customer's first name between B and E. Let's use the AND. I'm not sure whether there are any records it's going to return, but let's do it. We actually didn't see any record if we're using AND. The customer's first name between that and last name between that. Let's do this. We expand the range a little bit to see whether we're going to see any customers with this condition. Yeah. Now we see very few lines because we're using AND. The AND condition is only true when both conditions are true. So in this one, we choose the customer where their last name is between B and K and their first name between B and K. So by applying two conditions using AND, we are actually make more constraints to the data to have a fewer output. In the textbook, there are a very nice explanation of the relationship between how to use AND, how to use OR. There are two summary tables. You can take a look for those. And of course, there are this very special case of now, and we can revisit now because now we can actually use AND or OR with now with other values. So as we know, the only that when the final condition is true, then the row will be chosen. If the final condition is false or null, then the row will not be chosen. Then what's the logic when null is involved when combined with other conditions? It's actually quite simple. With all those conditions, null or true, the only one actually give us true. Null or true give us 1 is true. And null or false give us null, null or null give us null, null and true give us null, null and false give us false, and null give us null. And this a particular interesting one is if I actually put not null, it's actually not going to return is actually return null again. So that's a very interesting behavior because null is a known. The opposite of a known is still a known. So that's not null is actually give us the null value. So this is basically all I'd like to cover for week 4, and it's a lot of material. It's definitely a lot of material. So for the homework assignment, we are going to first read through chapter 5 and 6 of the textbook. Second, do the exercise for sales order database at page 154 to 155, and do the exercise for sales order database at page 214. And there's an additional one. Use the sales order database. Find the unique customer ID in descending order who ordered before 2012 December 31st and their product was shipped at 2013 January 1st. So test your SQL in MySQL Workbench and only submit your final working version of the SQL to eCollege. No screenshot or output are needed. just the SQL scripts, and I will run the scripts through my SQL workbench to check the result. That's all for this week, and see you next time.